All right. That was fun. Okay, hey everybody. How's it going? Darren here. I've got my shirt a little messed up. That's all right. Um, it is Monday night. Looks like Leonard is present and accounted for. Let me see if his video comes up and I'll bring it. Oh, there we go. All right. Okay. How are you, sir?
I'm doing. How you doing?
Oh, I'm making it. I just I had to, I was just at a little bit of a revival meeting with on Facebook with listening to your sermon. So I
Oh,
had to get caught up. Um,
yeah. Well,
good stuff.
I
Yeah.
have I, I haven't learned it, man. I still try to preach like I'm 50.
Yeah, you gotta get that cardiovascular going during the week so you can keep it going.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the gym 3 days a week.
There you go. You got to do it. Oh my goodness. Yeah. All right. So we're looking at Mary's song tonight, which will be the text for many people coming up on Sunday around the world. And I'm going to see if I can find my little PowerPoint style thing here real quick. Let's see if this is working. Let's try this. Yeah. What happened here? Try it one more time. There we go. That's a little better. Yeah. Well, so I have the text in the NRSV here. Mary said, "My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior, for he has looked with favor on the lowliness of his servant. Surely from now on all generations will call me blessed, for the Mighty One has done great things for me, and holy is his name. His mercy is for those who fear him from generation to generation. He has shown strength with his arm. He has scattered the proud in the thoughts of their hearts. He has brought down the powerful from their thrones and lifted up the lowly. He has filled the hungry with good things, sent the rich away empty. He has helped his servant Israel in remembrance of his mercy, according to the promise he made to our ancestors, to Abraham and his descendants forever." All right. Good stuff there. What version do you normally preach out of, Leonard?
I use the common English now. For years, I used the NRSV.
Uh-huh.
But because at one time we had so many children in the church,
Uh-huh.
the common English is good down to a fourth grade reading level.
Okay.
And so and it's just stuck as more people have come because now I used to use the NRSV all the time. I
Right.
used that from the time I was in Union in 1993 until probably 2010 to 2011. But now the people who are joining the church
Mm-hmm.
and being in a rural area, you know they
Right.
were on King James.
Right.
This is so refreshing to them.
Yeah.
I just stick to it. Every now and then, my wife, she preaches for me too, but she uses New Living Translation. She
Oh
likes
yeah.
that.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but we
No,
have a belief statement, and our belief statement says, they're all God's words. So, we don't
right.
put anybody down. But at the same time, I tell folk, you got some folk that if you don't use the King James, you have them, read the
Right. You
Bible.
have, yeah,
I had
yeah,
to sort of keep them in check.
yeah. Well, I saw when I saw when I was listening. Well, I heard when I was listening that I heard some of some of the different words, and I think, yeah, I have I think when I graduated from Union, they gave us a CEB Bible. That was the translation they gave us as a gift or whatever. I've used it a little bit. Um, it's funny. I got a set of them for our Sunday school for the high school kids, and one of the teachers didn't like it. So I don't know what you would say. She persuaded the others that they shouldn't like it either. So they just
Yeah, well,
big stack of them sat there for a while. I was like, oh my.
yeah, my wife has that same story. Her mother used to help with the Sunday school, and it wasn't a common English. I think it might have been a revised standard version, but
Right,
anyway, it was updated. And they acted like she had committed a capital crime for bringing that
right.
in there, so the children could understand it. I mean, and I still own my count here. I've got about 12 different versions of the Bible, but I still got the King James my parents gave me in
Yeah,
1956. I keep it up there.
yeah. Actually, it's to tie things into current events. I have the King James that my grandparents on my dad's side gave me when I was a little kid, and they actually live. Both of my parents are down from within 30 minutes of Mayfield, Kentucky, where those tornadoes went through. So most of all my family seems to be all right. Some of the people that my mom knows from her church had friends that lost, their house and their farm and stuff like that. But anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was real frightening looking at the picture of First United Methodist Church
Hmm.
that was split in half because, like in 2012 or 2011, we had a tornado come through. It started in Gloucester
Mm,
and it destroyed a church over there, and then it skipped over Matthews and went across the river into Middlesex, and it cut Zoar Baptist Church in half
mm.
just like that. You
Wow,
know,
wow,
so
yeah. Well, so I wanted to to kind of to bring in a couple other voices here, just because you know the 12th, yesterday, is the feast day for the Virgen de Guadalupe. So the Mary, the Virgin of Guadalupe, so that the Indian Juan Diego saw in Mexico. So I wanted to bring in an image of the Virgen, but before that, today I just saw that, and I think I knew this, but I forgot the connection to Virginia. Today is the birthday of Ella Baker, who was from Norfolk, originally. So um, I thought it was worthwhile to bring up a couple quotes of hers that tie into this text. She says here, oppressed people, whatever their level of formal education, have the ability to understand and interpret the world around them, to see the world for what it is and move to transform it. And I would say that quote picks up pretty well what happens with Mary in this text. That although, as you said in your sermon, although she was illiterate, and come from an oppressed people, and certainly was in the more oppressed segment of those people, she had a very clear understanding of what was going on in her world and what needed to happen to transform it.
yeah, it's amazing. I try to deal with what people don't deal with because it's a different economy, it's a different culture. Everything is different, and I mean, as a girl,
Mm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
she was at the bottom of society, and it,
Mm-hmm.
it, it really did me good yesterday. I was listening to Marcus Cosby at Wheeler Avenue down in Houston, and he was talking about Mary. And I'm saying, did 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 Marcus with his cathedral listen to me because he's talking about the same thing? He's saying, this is just a little girl. In fact, he said she could have been 12 or 13 years old when this happened. And we don't have access to that. But when you look at the fact that she got to see Jesus grow up, saw him hang on the cross, and actually was with the disciples when the Holy Spirit came, and they don't talk about her anymore, but how much longer did she live?
Right. Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, obviously obviously from what she says in this song, obviously she also was exposed to, teaching by her parents and, and tradition that, and what she passed along to Jesus. I mean, that's something we also don't talk about is, clearly this mother, in the way that she talks here, Jesus is picking up this same perspective and some of the same language when in chapter 4, when Jesus brings his his mission statement to the fore. Yeah.
And we sanitize this text, so we just look at the beauty of it rather than what Mary is saying.
Right.
Mary is making a revolutionary statement about herself. And when she finishes talking about herself, she's talking about a revolution in society.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
Hey, Mark. We'll formally say hello, Mark.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Mark snuck in. Yeah. What were you saying, Mark?
No, I'm saying, and I think that as I mentioned before, I don't know if it's the threatening aspect of that we don't deal with that, because that's very to a lot of people that's threatening. To those with great political power or great or so-called great dollar power, this text is very, very threatening.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's real funny. I dealt with the John the Baptist part yesterday.
Yeah.
But Murray is talking about a change of hearts and minds. And if when you went through the whole Luke thing with me, that's almost a theme, and we never talk about it. It's constantly changing hearts and minds, and this was setting it up, but people don't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been canceled.
The first victim. Yeah. Well, so along that line, I had a couple more Ella Baker quotes in honor of her birthday and the Norfolk region, today. So, and this goes along with what you were saying as well. In order for us as poor and oppressed people to become a part of a society that is meaningful, the system under which we now exist has to be radically changed. This means that we are going to have to learn to think in radical terms. I use the term radical in its original meaning, getting down to and understanding the root cause. It means facing a system that does not lend itself to your needs and devising means by which to change that system. And
she could have been a medical professional.
Yeah.
Because for years, I served on it was called just the Safety Committee for Bon Secours, and then when I went over to the BCU health system, it was quality, safety, risk, and credentials, and I was chairman. And whenever anything went wrong at the hospital, once a month I would have to go down there and listen to it, and my wife would dread it because I'd come back disillusioned, all messed up. But with every instance, we had to look at what we call a root cause analysis. What caused it to happen? And that's, with all the problems we face in the world today, nobody wants to do a root cause analysis. We just want to avoid things. And, we are all seminary graduates, but sometimes the root cause analysis with many of the problems we face today, we can lay it right at the feet of the church.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think, and Mary gets right at the point of, I mean, especially, with what she saw in her day, is that the power of the people in power and with all the riches was basically causing misery for everybody else.
Yeah.
And until that system and changed, then there was not going to be, it wasn't going to, it wasn't going to work out for anybody. So all right, I'm gonna get done with my. I have one more Ella Baker quote, but we can save it to the end. But the other thing about Mary's song and Mary in general is that Mary gets is the most like an icon that gets shaped into different images, all the time. So I had this. I found this picture that was on somebody's thing, and I also bring it up for personal reasons now that I'm in the state of Wisconsin. I thought this was a pretty powerful image, but I want you to notice, for the badger down here in the corner, for the Wisconsin,
Okay.
it's just,
All right.
it's just,
But as we look at Murray, I love these icons because I'm a great follower of the Ethiopian icons. In fact, when they brought them over to the United States, I drove all the way down to Norfolk to make sure I got to see all of them. And I even bought the book, and Reverend Reeves tried to keep my book with those icons. But I said it in the sermon. As Protestants, we don't seem to revere Mary like they do in the Orthodox churches
or the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the person who put themselves at so much risk to have this child, because her husband could have divorced her. If the religious leaders found out about it, they would have killed her.
And Leonard, that's it. She put herself at risk. And I think you mentioned it earlier, that we want to cover up or go past the whole risk part. That in her culture, I think you might have said in your sermon, I don't know if it was this time or last time, they would have stoned her.
Yeah.
In today's church, and you said this over and over in your sermons, what in old days, what we would have done with a 12-year-old, 14-year-old girl pregnant with no dad? We would have put her in the mourner's bench and maybe put her out.
Right.
Yeah, she would have been put out.
Yeah.
She would have been. We'll bring the cancel back. She would have been canceled. Yeah. All right. I'll just one more quick one. This one is from the Zapatistas down in Mexico. Mary with the this is a little bit sacrilegious in some way. Mary with the what are those called again? With the strings of bullets around her around
but
her.
see that if you really I do this devotional it's for everyday radicals.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, with the bullets around them, every day they talk about a historical fact. And so many Christians have been murdered in South America.
Yeah.
I mean, just shot to death. Bishops, everyday people, the entire town, for being Christians. And there are a lot of depictions of Mary in South America. They even have one. I never forget, I did a paper for Dr. Justin, Dr. Christine Marquise, and the story talked about Mary being a prostitute. And it's just but it's not sacrilegious. That's they're dealing with what the reality is down there. And
Right.
when we look at what's going on in Nicaragua now,
Mm-hmm.
how the guy is just taking over. And, sometimes the governments have been supported by the United States, sometimes they're not. But violence against people, just like Murray, it is and still is the everyday thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Well, it's pretty easy to figure out who they're for, who they're against. If it says socialist in the title, they're going to be against those people. So just there's the scorecard is easy to keep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing about it, they say socialist, but it's code word for communist.
Yeah.
When a socialist and communism two different things, but
Right. Right. Yeah. Or however they want to say it. They say whatever they think is going to get the most traction, they'll use. But yeah. So, yeah. I just I kind of what I was thinking about a lot this week is I just come across a bunch of different things over the week. Over the last month or so, just I was hearing another report again, not too long ago about after the COP meeting, in Scotland, talking about climate change and that sort of thing. But people still talking about how the richest people in the world are are some of the biggest drivers of climate change. The people, I mean, some of this is small compared to some of the even worse stuff, but I mean, like this is talking about how in 2017 Bill Gates took 59 flights, just and like the majority of people in the world had never even been on a plane.
Yeah.
And the lifestyle that certain rich people live is, they're using up more of the carbon than 70% of the world.
Yeah.
Just among themselves, the way that they live their lives, the way that they move around the world, in the the heating of their fifth and sixth house, to keep it ready for them to come and stay a weekend, at some point in the future. There's so many, the differences between, the differences of healthcare, part of the reason why we don't have changes in healthcare is because rich people have good healthcare. they can afford it, so they're not worried about the people who can't get the healthcare. And a lot of them have all their investments and stuff in the pharmaceutical companies and all of that stuff anyway. So they
And the thing is, we spend more on healthcare in the United States than any other nation.
Right.
And when you look at the developed world, we're 26 with outcomes. So in other words,
Right. There you go. That's it.
And then this vaccine thing is so disgusting because we have it, and yet you go to South Africa, only 10%, and then you got people here that don't want it. They're being to me, anytime one vial is destroyed, because it's gone out of date, is a sin. But I know they don't have the infrastructure over there to deal with Pfizer and whatnot, being able to freeze it. But we got to do a whole lot better, and we just got to do a whole lot better.
Well, I mean, and I mean, it's certainly, we can put it on the shoulders of the wealthy who are not allowing the the intellectual property rights to these vaccines to be shared with other places that they could create them themselves. I mean, these companies holding on to their patents and things like that to make sure that no one else can manufacture it, or no one else can have access to it. When and I mean, here's well, I won't bring up the other socialists down in Cuba anymore. But I mean, they're sending out not only the vaccines to places like Vietnam, but they're sending the actual intellectual property along with it to say, here's how you do, here's how we did it. here's the vaccine and here's how you can do it yourself.
Duplicate it, right?
You know, like I mean,
it was the same
you know.
thing with this cancer drug they developed, and you
Yeah.
know, all these obstacles, and they couldn't even get it into the United States in time, and it's 90 miles away.
Right.
You know, just
Yeah.
you know.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just trying to think of as many examples as possible to say that Mary was right.
Yeah,
and then
no,
we
she
need,
was. I mean,
you know, yeah.
it just, you know, the more I read that text, the more, you know, it just got on me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was on me at night when I was sleeping.
Yeah.
And, you know, as I was driving down the road, going here and there, just, you know, if we could just get more voices like that. See, that's the problem. You know,
Right.
most people, their voice has been taken away from them, or they feel like they don't have a voice.
Right.
And only when you open your mouth do things happen. And you know, that's the problem I fight at my church. You know, trying to get people to see that you have a voice. You can say something. You don't have to sit back because they've been taught, you know, that once certain people, you wait until you're 50, 60 years old, and then you can be a deacon, you know. And I'm blowing all that up. You know, I got a young man, he's 25 years old, and what people would consider mentally disabled, but because he has the gift of love and the gift of prayer, making him a deacon. He's not gonna have to go through all that ordination stuff everybody goes through, because you know, we're gonna use the gift he has.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's so hard to get people to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The gift of his gift. It sounds like his gift is his ability to love. His presence is a gift.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But you know what? I mean, how do we encourage the young Marys and the young Johns or whatever that are 10, 8, 12? How do we encourage? How do we develop them? Because they're out there.
Mm-hmm.
How do we encourage them? How do we nurture them? You know, do we have to do something different in our educational ministry in our churches to encourage and develop them?
Yeah. Well, that's the key, Mark, because we got a grant from this foundation to do a tutorial program after school, and you would be surprised at the reading levels, the math levels of these students, and just the lack of people caring for them. And so, I mean, this was from 4 to 7 at night, but once they started coming and found people loving them and who were willing to teach them, you know, it was different, but it just didn't last long enough. And you know, with the virus being the way it is, you know, we haven't gone back into doing it, but it's something that needs to be done all year. And these after school programs that the churches do, it's going to have to be less about religious teaching, but more about living out the religious teachings, where these young people learn what love is, who they are, what they're capable of doing, you know, because, you know, they go into a school system, you know, unless you in that exceptional group, you know, you just sort of there.
Right. And they may have a gift. I mean, I remember, I know some program I was looking at on CNN. It might have been Kamel Bell did a program on STEM careers and how, you know, that's a challenge for us from our community. And I keep on saying there are young kids out there that are not, you know, I'm using Richmond example. They might be in the West End, they might be in the hood in the projects, but they have the ability. They have math ability, they have science ability, but nobody's nurturing that. They could be the future microbiologist that finds a cure to cancer. They could be the future scientist that discover some great discovery, but there's not a mechanism there to nurture that gift. like there
we'll
is
see.
in more affluent areas.
Yeah, we'll see. It's because they can't read. They're great mathematicians.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a drug dealer, you have to be a great mathematician because you have a product that's killing off your customers, but you continue to find new customers and survive in the system and make money.
Yeah.
You know, we taking over your program.
No. I'm listening. Yeah. I mean that you know, but I mean, I think the interesting thing is, right, is that, with Mary as an example, right? I mean, she wasn't taught how to succeed. You know, she wasn't taught how to fit in. You know, she wasn't taught how to make it. You know, or whatever. You know, I mean, she was taught how to believe that her God was going to have God's way in the world, you know, and that she could be a part of it, you know, if, you know, by listening to what the Spirit was saying to her, that could happen. And I mean, and as you were saying in your sermon and even earlier, I mean, you know, the choices that she made didn't make her you know, didn't help her to, you know, find her way into the, you know, into the middle class or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it put her on a path to, you know, to basically, you know, get rejected by her own son to some degree. You know, be there with him throughout, even so, you know, be there at the end. You know, have to watch this terrible thing happen to her son, and then, you know, I mean, you know, that's the difficult thing about many of these texts in the Bible. What they call us to doesn't match up with kind of any of the narratives that we try to place people into when we try to help them. You know.
Yeah, well, see, we got to make it. We got to make it real. And it was funny, you know. I was reading John this morning about the crucifixion, and you know, they talk about how they crucified him, and then they took his clothes and gambled, and then later they said he died. So I mean, that meant Jesus was on the cross naked.
Yeah.
But we don't want to talk about that.
Right.
But back to that other point about, you know, the children. See, the thing is, we have 2, 3, 4 generations now of people who have never gone to church. And so they can't be like Murray's parents, even though we really, you know, don't know who they were. It's not really talked about. I mean, talked about some in Matthew.
Right.
But they were there to instill this, you know. So Mary knew some of the stories. Yeah. But our children growing up today, they don't know the stories. And it's like, you know, people, you always ask me, where y'all get all these children from? You know, well, to be honest, a lot of the mothers in the church were like Mary. They were single mothers. Their Joseph never showed up. And we didn't negate them. We loved them. We loved their children, you know. And so you see those 2 little twins up there that sing on Sunday. You know, well, I dedicated them when they were infants, and I baptized them. And the mother who's singing with them didn't start. The only time she came to church was when she came to dedicate those children. And then when we went into the hotel room, the mother was living at home with her mother. She made her start coming to church, and so now, and she's gonna be ordained as a deacon soon. But it's all about, you know, we gotta work with the children, because now most of the parents are not there, or we gotta show love to parents to get them to feel welcome, because we've got too much of this history of shaming and looking down on people because they don't know what real love is.
Yeah.
They trying to find love in people who love them, and because the world says it's sex, they have sex, and they have these children, and so we saying you can't abort them. So if you abort them, you're sinner. But then if you if you birth them, you a worse sinner. It's
Right.
we put people in a no-win situation. And Mary is a fine example to show that that's not God's way.
Mm-mm.
That's not God's way. It's sure, she's impregnated by the Holy Spirit, but God is saying, you aren't any less because you conceived before you got married. In fact, in this case, you're honored because you did it.
Right. Well, I mean, I think we have to be honest too, that someone even today who comes from a social circumstance similar to Mary's in our world, if they show up with the baby and, I mean, we're going to already assume, even if it was conceived by the Holy Spirit, someone in Mary's social situation, we don't care about that. We already judge who they are, what they're like, and what they're about.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's where we've missed so many people, and not giving them the opportunity to have self-worth. Self-worth. So in other words, it's just like the thing I used to see at the pharmacy over and over again. I'd see a child grow up a little bit, have a child, and then I'd see that child go up and have a child. And so you got grandparent, parent, and child all living in the projects. And that cycle just keeps going on because nobody is reaching down trying to lift that child up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think the other thing about it is that, I think it would really help us if we were like Mary and John and Jesus and kept the focus on the fact that, part of the problem of why we're in the situation we're in is because the rich people keep taking everything and they need to be, something needs to be transformed and turned upside down. I mean, that to me is the conversation that we don't, that we really don't have in the church in a broad way, to just say, look, this is what the Bible is saying. Like, I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it means. I'm sorry that it might offend you and you over there, but this is the reality about the broader. I mean, because yes, there are, people have to make some different choices and change their lives in different ways in order to be, to be in a better place with themselves and whatever. But, the thing that's putting them in poverty is not their personal choices, I mean, like the thing that's keeping them, from, being able to read, keeping them from being able to have access to all that they need to be literate and to have, bodies healthy enough, for everything. These are broader systems that we struggle. I think we can come to the place of naming that reality, but it is really hard in our world, the way it's structured, to figure out how to challenge those things in a meaningful way. And especially from the church's point of view, I think there's some political ways that people might have, but in the church, we kind of have, we just kind of get, we just get confused about what to do.
Do you think that the church, we don't challenge because we're too close to it? We're not like John, who was out in the wilderness and was away. But that you think that we're too close to it? I mean, we're scared to take those risks because there'll be certain ramifications if we do say certain things and take those risks.
Well, I'll let Leonard respond first. And
then see, the thing is, when you look at the conversation, the children are not in the conversation. The only thing people are concerned about especially here in Virginia when it comes to education. I don't want you teaching critical race theory in the schools, and I don't want transgenders going into the bathrooms, and I don't want certain books in the library. But when it comes to everything else, the children are missing in the conversation, and the children are losing out.
Right.
So
Right.
I mean, it's
Right.
just it's disgusting.
Yeah.
You know, when you talk about books, supplies for teachers, you know, all of these things, none of that matters. Just, you know, on day one, I'm going to sign an order banning critical race theory in the schools. And, you know, right here in Hanover County, you know, the federal court says you have to make provisions for, you know, transgender people, and the school board says they're not going to do anything. So the ACLU has sued
Right.
them,
Yeah.
and it, I realize, you know, I've had these things happen to me that make me realize, you know, everybody can't be, you know, one male or female. You know,
Mhm.
I read a study at the Virginia Marine Science Place where, because of the chemicals we putting in the water, you have fish now that are bisexual.
Mm.
And I was in an airport one day in Atlanta, real early in the morning. I was going to San Diego, and I had an afternoon meeting, so I got up real early, couldn't eat breakfast, couldn't pray. When I got to Atlanta, went to the Sky Club, got something to eat, and then went in a corner by myself to pray. And when I got through praying, this guy came up and asked me, was I the man of God? I said, I don't know what that is. I said, I am a pastor. And we had this long conversation. And then he said to me, I'm a retired physician.
Mhm.
And he wanted to know if God was going to forgive him for deciding the sex of children when they were born.
Mm.
And that did something radical to me. And then I don't know why I overlooked this scripture, because I know he had talked about eunuchs all the time,
Mm.
but even Jesus said some are born eunuchs and some are made eunuchs.
Mhm.
Now,
Right. 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 Right.
but
Right.
you know, we want to take the narrative of, you know, the garden and make that the rule. If somebody is if God is saying somebody is born a eunuch, that
Mhm.
sort of challenges that first statement, which is, you know, I know somebody gonna say, you know, well, no, he don't believe in the Bible. No, you know, they were not there to write it down.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
this was,
Right.
how did we get here? And so divinely inspired, and you know, and like I said, you know, is it right or it's wrong? I don't know. A lot of problems because of translation. We know it's not days, it's time periods, but I know God still created, but how it's laid out in scripture, you know, that's just religious men saying, well, this is how we saw how it happened. And, you know, and that's why, you know, you got one saying that God made male and female, and the other one said, you know, God put Adam to sleep and then took the rib and
Yeah.
made the woman. But like I said, you know, don't feel too good about that, because that's the way it happened. You know, you didn't have any part in it. You couldn't even look at it. God put you to sleep so it could happen, you know. So
Yeah.
don't puff yourself up about
Right.
that. You know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's a hard thing, but we've got to involve the children in the
Right.
conversation. And it gets back to what I was saying before, you know, in the Baptist church, we don't infant baptize, we dedicate, but there are still a lot of Baptist preachers who will say, if the parents are not married, I will not dedicate those children.
Wow. Mm.
And I
Wow.
mean, and that happened to my nephew, and his grandfather was a deacon in the church, and
Mm.
they never dedicated that boy. And when he was baptized, you know, I went down there to Westmoreland County and I baptized him myself.
Mhm.
And his grandfather still didn't come to the baptism.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And so when we treat children like that,
Mm-hmm.
How do we expect things to change when we are the people of God, but we expect God to be a God of the status quo, and He's not a God of a status quo.
Yeah.
God is
Right.
about a God of change.
Right.
Right.
And Mary's saying that right there in the text. It's just again, like I said, I don't know, we're just sleeping at the wheel on this thing, I
Right.
guess.
Well, I mean, and you think about it like all the emotion and energy and mental whatever spent on policing, these people having to be together so that you can welcome them into your church and all that stuff, and the whole time, you never even looking at the people causing you in your community the real problems. I mean, it's not those people that that didn't have a that have a baby that they're not. I mean, come on, that that's not the that's not the problem. That's not what needs to be. I mean, like that. That's not the problem. Come on. The problem is bigger than that.
But you see it all through Scripture, because even
Right.
after Jesus grows up, they said, "In this Mary's son."
Mary's son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. I mean, that's the attempt, right?
Yeah.
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 Well, I'm not going to shy away. Yeah.
That same negation.
Yeah. I'll bring it back up again. Yeah. her son too. Right. I'm not going to shy away from Mark's question either, though. I don't, I mean, I think that many people in the church believe that they are close to the people who we would point a finger at if we were to speak with Mary's language and talk about, the rich and the well-fed going away hungry, and the rich. I mean, I think people think that they're close to that, but the reality is that they're not. They're not close. Most people in the church are not anywhere near close to that, but they imagine that one day they could be. And they think that that's what God is calling them into. They think that if they live right, that's where they're going to end up. And they, and I think even like I talked about this one time before. I mean, there are people I mean, there are plenty of well-to-do people in some, well, especially some Presbyterian mainline churches. There are some well-to-do people, and there's some people, as I've said before, in my church that are doing well for themselves. But I mean, I can guarantee that they're not in the 10%, the 20%. That's not where they're living. And it's. I mean, I don't think that we really have grasped the vast difference, between someone who has 20 to 120 billion dollars, and someone who might have, 500,000, even the some of the averages that they say for wealth, for average wealth of white people in certain places of, of 200, 400, whatever, like even having that, that's just literally nothing compared to, someone who has even $5-10 billion. I mean, it's just, and then obviously, I mean, the gap between black and white and white and Latino is
the wealth gap
is great too. But when you look at those figures as well, though, I mean, the gap between the wealthiest black people and the wealthiest white people is dramatic, but the gap between the wealthiest black people and the rest of black people is dramatic as well. And the same way it is for white people. The wealthiest white people and the rest, I mean, so most of us are living on this like very low plane, and then there's kind of this like at the top there's this spike in every community. I mean, it just so happens that the white one goes really high, but most of the people are living pretty close to each other,
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
And that's the people in our churches for the most part. And I don't think, I don't think that we've recognized yet that, well, I don't think we've realized that Mary was on to something when she was saying that, like, the reason why we're all, some of us struggling more than others, but all of us, in this place where we are, has to do with the fact that we have created a world where all of the stuff is distributed to the people who have the most already, and the laws are set up so that they keep getting it,
Right.
so I mean,
tax laws and everything else. Right.
Yeah. Everything,
Yeah.
And, they don't go to jail. They don't pay their debts. They don't, they get to buy the stuff that you created in the universities. They get, and then make money off of it. I mean, they get to do all of that.
Yeah. And I keep on saying, I think that part of, that's why I said, I think a couple of weeks ago, that I think it's important that in order for us to make a change, we have to understand how this thing works. And I think we have to have a better understanding of what I call macroeconomics.
Right.
Because you can't change anything unless you understand fully how it works. We have to have a better understanding of what's happening on an economic level, so we can be part of that change process.
Right. Right.
And we have to understand, for example, it's like the 2017 tax law. How that tax law. I mean, that tax law wasn't a tax cut for you and I.
Right.
We didn't get no taxes cut.
Right.
That tax cut was for benefit those folks at that top 10%, so that some of those corporations in the S&P 500 haven't paid taxes in years.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's real funny though what you said there, because the church I used to be a pastor at, I mean, this is a rural church, and I mean, the town is in, the name is on both sides of the post, but there were 3 multi-millionaires in the church.
Wow.
And people who one just happened to move there when they retired, and I knew them when they were in Richmond. But it was funny how they would feel so happy when he sat down on their pew. They said, Mr. So-and-so was sitting next to me this morning, and then the other one, she ran the funeral home, and so she and her husband had owned it years before her, and then this other guy, he was a big time maritime guy, but like you said, they had it, and I mean, and they had it. They had it. The guy that retired, I went to his house once, and you looked out of his, he was on the water. He had a pier that went out probably about 50 feet, and you could look all the way down to Yorktown, about 30 feet.
Wow.
But like I said, they would never get there, but they wanted to be with them.
Right.
And the one that was big maritime, I wasn't always the shouting preacher, but then when I started getting to preach, one day he came up to me and he told me, "This is not a hallelujah church. I don't know what you're trying to tell me."
Right.
And this is a country Baptist black church.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna bring up my can't keep Marcy in the loop, a little bit.
Who is Elon?
Elon Musk. She's talking about.
Yeah, but I'm talking about. She said she's looking at Elon like one of us.
Yeah. I think that was from a while ago. I had to get it back up, but but no, I think you're right.
Look at what he's doing. I mean, see, most people think that's a race between people to see who can go to space first.
Right.
To me, those are the modern day arcs. That when we have destroyed this planet to the point that it's like Venus and nobody can live there, the top 1% are going to go and populate somewhere else.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, let's just say it ain't for us.
Yeah.
No.
Whatever it is, it ain't for us.
It ain't for us.
Right.
And they showing it to us. We watching it, and we
right.
well, Strahan got to go on there the other day.
Yeah.
Right.
To me, that's what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe 100 years when people watching the replays of this, they say that gray guy, that gray hair guy had it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so I'm going to try to tie together some a young man who might have been taught right by his mother, some facts about where rich people's money comes from, and a tweet that I got from Marcy the other day. So I'm gonna see if I could. We'll try to wrap things up by bringing this all together. Let's see here.
Tupac.
Yeah.
I know in this hotel room they have food every day, and I'm knocking on the door every day to eat, and they open the door, let me see the party, let me see like them throwing salami all over I mean, just like throwing food around, but they're telling me there's no food in here. You know what I'm saying? Every day I'm standing outside trying to sing my way in. You know what I'm saying? We are hungry, please let us in. We are hungry, please let us in. After about a week, that song was going to change. We hungry, we need some food. After 2-3 weeks, it's like, give me all the food right now. After a year, just like, you know what I'm saying? I'm picking the lock, coming through the door, blasting, you know what I'm saying? It's like you hungry, you reach the level, you don't want any more. We asked 10 years ago. We was asking with the Panthers. We was asking with that, the civil rights movement. We was asking, now those people that were asking, they're all dead and in jail. So now what do you think we're going to do? Ask? I put my gun away.
Yeah. And then this Frantz Fanon quote at the top, the people come to understand that wealth is not the fruit of labor, but the result of organized, protracted robbery. Rich people are no longer respectable people. They are nothing more than flesh-eating animals, jackals and vultures, which wallow in the people's blood. Yeah. So, we haven't got there yet, but we're, we shout out to Afeni Shakur, and actually her, is it? I think it's Tupac's. Is it his father or his? I don't know if it's his father. One of that family is still in jail and is up for what do they call it? Like the merciful release because he's he's so sick.
So sick.
That he's so sick that he can't. He's not gonna survive. So anyway, but yeah. So we can bring it. We'll forgive us all for a little bit of Tupac at the end, but when you're raised by a Black Panther, sometimes you come out with some good education about where things are. I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, there was we are leaving sometimes this clear analysis to people, that more power to them, but the church has the scriptures, has all of all of this stuff is in, all these same things are in our texts, right? I mean, they're in our history, they're in our past. Even a 12, 13-year-old girl can pick it up, from the words that she heard, not even the words she read, and sing this song, and for some reason, the church is not the place where you find that, anymore.
Wow. Yeah. And that's why I made that point that I said earlier about there are young revolutionaries or young folks with revolutionary vision out there.
Right.
And how do we nurture that?
Right.
How do we nurture that? That's the key.
Right. Well, that's that will be our question to ourselves for the week. I think, yeah. Maybe we'll sit in the corner of the airport praying and hope that someone comes up and ask us for some advice.
I mean, that quote you did of Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur was a genius. I wasn't a fan of his music or a fan of the hip hop, but I recognize the genius in Tupac Shakur. And I think a lot of folks saw him as this. I guess he went two different ways. You would talk about the love his mother, and you talk about bees and hoes on the other hand. But when we look at it, he was a genius.
Right.
He was a real genius.
Well, and he was a young man, you know.
Yeah,
I
young
mean,
man.
like, you know, of course, you know, like you don't always, you know, we don't want to go back and record everything that we said when we were young and put it side by side and have judgment given on whether we were always right or not. That's for sure. Yeah.
I had to admit that to a young man the other day. He did something wrong, and I had to correct him. I said, you know, but I understand because I haven't always done everything right either.
Right.
And so he accepted it and he changed. You know, he took care of what he needed to take care of because I was honest. But a lot of people, you know, we put on them halos and them wings, and you know.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you all. I appreciate it. It's been good. I was thinking that you know, next week the actual Sunday text is Jesus you know, going to the temple, and it talks about Jesus kind of growing up. I think that's the text for Sunday. But we also have Christmas coming up on Friday, so it might be worth it to talk over some of those Christmas texts. What you know, kind of our favorite parts of some of those. Some of the Luke has all the good Christmas stuff. So you know.
Yeah, I got to do a little op-ed piece for the paper for Christmas. So it's going. You know.
When does that go in?
I think I got to send it in by Friday because it has to go in the paper on the 23rd.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'll send it to you all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
We'll have a little. Yeah, we have something to talk about.
Something that you want.
Yeah. Well, good. That sounds good.
Yeah.
And we know that Marcy will be back with us for sure
next week. Yeah, we're looking for
beautify the picture. Something.
Yeah,
that's right.
She can bring her revolutionary vision with her.
Help us out a little bit.
Yeah.
And she'll be welcome to share any of her. I know she looked into the text a little bit, just got called away at the last minute for some church stuff. So, but she can share her take as well. So yeah. Oh, we can't. Well, you got to clarify a little bit, Marcy. I mean, which award? There's probably about 4 or 5 of them.
No, well, she called me the other day, and the Black Alumni Association at Union Presbyterian.
Oh yeah.
And then, you know, they do things way out. I'm worried about living to 22, but they have picked me for the Trailblazer Award.
Oh, congratulations!
So y'all pray that the Lord keep me around.
2024.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know, they do things way out. You know.
Well, that's something. Yeah. Is that the award you were talking about, Marcy? Because you know, I mean,
yeah, that's it.
You know,
she called me and told me.
Right. Because I check you out on Facebook every once in a while. You're getting an award every quarter at least.
I'm on break from Facebook because I'm trying to finish my book.
Okay.
And it's real funny. A friend of mine, he was working on his D-Min, not at Union Presbyterian, but he was using the library, and he did his book, and he quotes me in his book on theoethical issues facing the rural church. So I've got to get mine finished and published. Yeah. Like you said, it's another one coming in March, but they haven't announced it, so I'm not going to say
can't announce
it.
Well, that's congratulations.
Congratulations, man.
Well deserved for sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And I'll have to put the May date on my 2024 calendar to make sure that I'm showing up at Sprunts and you know.
Yeah. You know, maybe several years ago I didn't know what Sprunt was.
Yeah. So the this year I think it's a Black Old Testament scholar. I can't remember her name.
Right.
Yeah. It looks pretty good.
Okay.
In fact, Jamar Tisby said, make sure you check her out. So she must be good.
Okay.
Yeah. So we will see about that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all. It was good
Thank
times.
you all. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Have a
Y'all
good week.
Marcy, we'll see you next week.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right, Leonard. Talk to you.